All right, ladies and gentlemen.
We're back.
Rashad is running for governor. What's the first thing on your initiative?
Well, before we do that, I'm scheduling the press conference, so please just bear with the questions, please.
Got you.
Thank you.
Got you.
Sure. Political.
I have to have some autonomy here, please.
I'm dipping.
I gotta raise my hand.
You know how this goes, man.
Press row. I needed my press pass.
Testing the waters of the political world. Why not?
Told y'all, crystal ball be crystal ball.
We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how the next 18 months plays out, ladies and gentlemen. But welcome back to Market Mondays. It is a holiday. The market is closed, but we are open.
This is a fact.
Never miss a Market Mondays.
Yes.
Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day for everybody out there.
Yes.
To all the fallen soldiers. To everybody on the cookouts and the grills and vacation and, just enjoying the vibe. Shout out to everybody in Brooklyn. I was in BK yesterday.
Let's show some love out there.
A lot of love. BK's always been our biggest market. And yeah, the love was real, man. Very inspiring. A lot of people like y'all watch y'all every Monday. I started our business from this. I bought a house. I started investing, just a lot of entrepreneurs and investors and people scaling their way up the food chain that have been able to benefit from the platform. So whenever you get a chance to get in front of the people and tap in with the people, it's always a blessing. So shout out to Brooklyn.
Yeah, cookout
to Brooklyn.
Huh?
Cookout
in Brooklyn?
Yeah.
Nah, it was like a festival, African festival.
It was the first campaign stop, right?
No, I was going
to first campaign stop.
I had to talk to the delegates.
That's a fact.
The Brooklyn delegates.
I need the buttons. Back to business 2026.
That's a fact. That's a fact. Oh, happy birthday. Yesterday was my brother's birthday.
Happy birthday.
It's now Gemini season. Shout out to Howie. Hopefully he enjoyed his birthday. And today, shout out to Spence. It's his birthday today.
Shout out to all the Geminis.
Yeah, Gemini season has arrived.
What mood swings?
Now you want to talk about May Geminis and June Geminis? There's shout out to everybody.
Shout out to my dad. My dad's birthday in June, so shout out to my dad.
June Gemini? Okay.
Geminis.
Yeah.
Two personalities.
This is true.
Loving and terrorist.
Shout out to all the Geminis out there, man. Big week for Earn Your Leisure. We got WTF Studios. That's where we record a lot of our content in New York City and in Los Angeles. And Wheezy and Alex, the two owners of WTF Media.
It's a good one.
We sat down with them and we had a conversation about their business, about opening a podcast studio. Ian, you're involved in the LA studio.
Yep.
They have plans on expanding. They just talked about the whole media space, podcast. We had an interesting conversation about this podcast space in general. If there's too money, if how can you make money, monetize? And they've been able to find a niche as far as developing services for people that want to produce content and make podcasts.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because it's one of these things. It's like they're like the shovel and picks. Like, when we were talking about like the people in the gold rush, most people that got rich in the gold rush didn't really find gold. The people that were selling them the shovels and the picks got rich. So this is an interesting place because a lot of people don't have equipment to have podcasts, or they don't have cameras, or at least like very expensive cameras in the studio. So it's like everybody wants to create content, but how do they do it? How do they go about it? So now they've created content studios, podcast studios. They travel out with people and they're providing a service for people that want to create content, which is an interesting business model and something that probably will only continue to go up as more and more people want to create content over the course of, the next decade. So check that episode out. Dope episode.
Shout out to Alex and Weezy.
Shout out. Yeah, definitely shout out to them. Great conversation, pre-episode and post-episode. But yeah, man, they've created almost an essential business in this day and age of media, and they've done it with a high level of efficiency. So we've been with them since probably when they started in 20,
right when they
beginning,
started.
right?
Yeah,
right when they started. So to see the growth, to see the people, I'm talking about the level of talent that walks in that studio, the level of guests that walks in that studio.
Yeah,
it's incredible. So shout out to them.
And this Friday, the first wave of InvestFest names will be released. The first wave.
Wop, 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 wop.
Emphasis on the first wave. But we got a lot of names. We got a lot of information. But what's even more exciting is what we're going to be rolling out after that, as far as impact and different things that we have, different initiatives that we have as far as impact this year. But the first wave of the Invest Fest names will be released.
So what time? Let me set my alarm.
all the proposed names.
Y'all can quit texting me. I still don't know. Man, just tell me who's gonna be there. So if I get my ticket now, I catch it.
It's still on the cut. It's still on the cutting block. We still actually. It's like it's like making a Olympic team. Yeah.
This
like making the Olympic team.
We can't say this. This will definitely be the most impactful year.
Oh, for sure.
This will be the most impactful year that we've had.
We got some surprises and a few tricks up our sleeve.
I love it.
As always. So get your tickets to Invest Fest. We'll see you in August, Atlanta.
And if you segment the email list based on people who live in New York, probably can win governor a lot faster.
That's a fact.
The post
segment in play.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
You're a registered voter. That is on the post event questionnaire. Trust me.
For sure.
Then you forgot to shout out this Wednesday, Blackout, another episode of Blackout. Shout out to last week's episode, everybody that tapped in. Make sure that y'all tune in. I said you know what? Watching the show is great, but watching the feedback in the comment section is always funny, just to see people debate and have conversations. And I know those conversations lead to more conversations.
Yes,
I'm sure, Ian, you've had some conversations after the show is aired. Shout out,
I'll somebody on next week.
It becomes something that you could talk about at your Memorial Day cookouts, man. So shout out to Blackout this Wednesday at 10, and make sure you go subscribe to every audio podcast platform so you can listen to it if you miss it.
Love me for who I am,
please,
not the content to get clipped. And also watch the whole clip. Y'all be leaving some stuff out of context too. So
these stories are for entertainment purposes only, y'all.
There's some truth in them though on my side. So
Ian, any announcements?
Yes, we had an amazing stock club call. If you want to get rich from the market, go to join Red Panda or ianinvest.com. Shout out to my guy that's up 693% 3 years off Nvidia.
Wow.
1,000% in 4 years off Nvidia. If I made you money, please put yes in chat. My only KPI is return on investment. I may not be the most social, I may get on your nerves on Blackout. Judge me on my returns. 693%. People are asking, yo, what analyst are you think we should look into? Me. Go to joinredpanda.com, ianinvest.com.
I told you.
Yeah, I told you. Ain't no victory. Yeah. Oh, Kendrick, I'm with you. I heard not like us at the pool party the other day. I said, yeah, he won. Family Matters didn't do that. So that's it. Let's have a good show.
Disclaimer.
Yeah, before we do that, man, I want to give a shout out to Edwin. When you talk about financial journeys, I saw he put up a clip the other day of his financial journey, starting with Market Mondays and going to Invest Fest. I thought it was one of the dopest clips I've seen on the social.
Shout out to
platform.
Edwin.
So shout out to him. I know he's in the chat, but shout out to Edwin, man. Just an incredible dude, a lifelong earner, especially with us, man. You good? Anywhere we at, man, you good. So shout out to Edwin. If you didn't go check out that post, go check it out. It's a very, very good testimony of how, with dedication, discipline, and that comes from his background, but actually applying the information, what you can do with it. So shout out to him again. All right, y'all know how this goes, man. Do your own research. This is the disclaimer. Our content is intended to be used and must be used for informational purposes only. It's very important that you do your own analysis before making any investment based on your own personal circumstances. You should take independent financial advice from a professional in connection with, or independently research and verify any information that you hear on our show and wish to rely upon, whether for the purpose of making an investment decision or otherwise. Continue to do the research. Please share the research. Give credit when you find where the research is from. Love is love. Let's keep growing. Let's keep making this money. Let's keep spreading the love. Let's grow community. Let's do this. Let's get this thing on.
My dad just texted me right now. So the kind and terrorist part wasn't a reflection of my thoughts on my father. I love you.
Wow.
I was talking about the Tupac Geminis. You know what I mean? Just
Tupac back.
The 616 Geminis.
Yes.
So okay, we have some special guests that we're gonna cut to in a little bit. We did a segment when we was in Washington D.C. with the Deputy Secretary of the Treasury Department and of course Congresswoman Lauren Underwood. So that's a dope conversation, especially fitting for today. But before we go there, we got to talk about NVIDIA, but before we even talk about NVIDIA, let's talk about just in general. If the market is rigged to stay up at all-time highs, we're going to see a pullback. Obviously, the market has been on a tremendous run since COVID. Had pullbacks, periodically, but right now it's back hovering around all-time highs.
Yeah.
So will we see a pullback in the market, or is this rigged to stay up at least until election time?
I always say that the market is rigged to stay up for a long period of time. That's with quantitative easing, with hedge fund buying, with robo investing in indexes and ETFs. I think this really applies more to traders who are looking for a pullback. But my thing is like, stop worrying about the election cycle. Stop worrying about a short-term cycle. Overall, the market is going to go up year over year. We'll talk about Nvidia later, but even with indexes or ETFs, you should be able to get an easy 12 to 15% out of the market. So on the macro picture, yes, the market is rigged to stay up. Like people always ask, is the system rigged or the game's rigged? Like when Luka traveled on that step back three. Yes.
Alleged.
2 carries and 3 steps. I'm not a pro hooper, but if I take 3 steps back, that's a travel or no?
So no, you got this. They count the gather dribble.
Gather step.
The gather step. Yeah.
New rules. Shout to Kyrie though.
LeBron.
But no, like I think it's a mistake to worry about. Are we going to have a pullback? Because even in a deep recession, let's say you drop 50%, usually the return is 150 3 or 4 years later. And their recession low only lasts for maybe 5 or 6 weeks on average. So continue to hold for the long term. If you missed out, stop missing out. Been doing this for 4 years. Stop missing out. Like just said at the top of the show, we don't miss a Monday. I don't want you to miss a month investing. All the answers. Which ones? VOO, VTI, VUG, VGT, XLK, Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, AMD, Eli Lilly, Google, even though their Gemini is malfunctioning, Striker, and you're good. Hope for the long term.
Yeah, I think the simple answer is yes. If we look at the history of the market for the past 77 years, we've seen that. So historically, it tells us yes. But for every reason that you just said, you're talking about the Dow. I want to see where the year analyst had the Dow going to 40,000, right? As it's nearly approaching that.
Yep.
The Nasdaq is approaching 17,000. The S&P, I mean, most people had it at the end of the year going to 5,200. It's at 5,300 present day. And so, is there a good time to invest? There's always the right time to invest is when you invest, right? Because again, we've seen this cycle. I always like to talk about the Market Mondays time as its own term, right? From 2021 when we started to present day, you've seen the ups and downs of the market. You've seen post pandemic that we had an incredible resurgence, right? And then you saw in 2022 we had a huge correction, especially when it comes to technology. And now here we are approaching just under 17,000. So is there a perfect time? No. The right time is when you actually execute. And so is it rigged to go up? Yes, because the economy is always rigged to go up. We've seen this historically, like I said, for the past 70 to 80 years. We don't see it changing, and things have been put in place. I know you talked about quantitative easing. Things have been put in place, interest rate. These things have been put in place to make sure that it is sustainable. So block out the noise when we're talking about investing. If you're talking about trading, there's going to be cycles, there's going to be volatility that comes with it. But if we're talking about long-term investing, which is the first thing that we stressed since day one, it is rigged to go up. Whether you're getting 5% or some on years like 2023, 30%.
Yeah.
It's going to be positive, right? When you average it out over the course of time, your majority of times you're going to be up.
It's the one industry that's rigged that you can take advantage of in your favor. So if BlackRock and Vanguard owns it, check it out. You can also look at a site like finviz.com. Because I gave 3 tips last week. That's another one you can add to the portfolio. But the most important thing is not all the education, is what will you do with it and execute. Please buy. Like some of you have missed out on, if you put 10 grand in 2020, now you could probably have 200,000-300,000 if you on a conservative end. Stop missing. We're almost into a half of a decade. Preponderance of proof. Please buy for the long term. I'm sure it's the same conversation you had with Weezy Alex going to the episode tomorrow, right? The non-quality podcast, Adam 22, shambles. The ones that are of high quality, network is doing fine, right? Like the ones who have great talent will find a way, the cream will rise to the top. You'll find a way to adjust, right? They have a bunch of great guests in their studio, Neil Britton, and the cream will rise to the top. And I think in 2022, it pushed out a lot of bad companies, and you saw Uber emerge and Netflix go back to this resurgence, Paramount fall apart, Disney's
Meta.
Meta came back and shut me up and everybody else, right? The cream will rise to the top. Elon started doing cocaine because he was stressed. Tesla fell apart. Quality will rise over time. That's why if you focus on a 3-month period, you can have a lot of losses in that time period. If you focus over 3 or 5 years, you'll be A-okay. You'll be A-okay.
So what's your end of the year targets for the Nasdaq and S&P 500?
Nasdaq, we really could hit like 18.1 if we stay at this pace. Dow, I think definitely will stay above 40. We should hit maybe like 41,220. I think we should close above there and we'll be good. But going back to my major point and thesis of tonight is please hold for the long term. The short term noise, like, okay, think about this. The Brooklyn Nets at one point gave up on Kyrie because of his belief, which he was accurate about. And I remember them calling him a headache, a disaster. You guys had the conversation with Stephen A, which he's been lighter on Kyrie this year, which I appreciate. But them not keeping Kyrie has hurt their franchise, and he went to Dallas, and now he's thriving. Mark Cuban took a long-term approach into a once-in-a-lifetime player. I want you guys to do the same thing with this market. Don't make an emotional short-term decision over an investment when you need to take a long look to see what the outcome is going to be. And they're probably going to end up in the finals as a result.
But also the example with Kyrie and even Katie, shout out to both of them, is that it highlights the dangers of investing in individual stocks, right?
Oh, that's a good segue. You are good.
Because depending on where you got them, all right. So if you have KD in Golden State, 2-time champion,
yep,
it works out. If you have KD in Brooklyn, it doesn't work out.
Yep.
If you have KD in Phoenix, it doesn't work out. If you have Kyrie in Cleveland, works out. They went to the finals, I believe, 2 times, maybe 3.
Yep.
They won the NBA finals. If you have him in Boston, doesn't really work out. They didn't win any playoff game. If you have him in Brooklyn, it didn't work out. Now in Dallas it is working out. So what I'm saying is that, man, like I said, no disrespect to them, but right, depending on where you have these players in their career, their circumstances, who their teammates are, who's the coach, the city that they're living in,
the
system that they're playing in, that's going to determine if you're going to have a championship run or if you're going to get knocked out in the first round of playoffs, right? So it's like depending on where you invest in Apple, right? Yep. You could have seen 5,000% rate of return, or you could be currently down 30% on your investment if you invested at the high, let's say last year or whatever the high was, right? It's the same company, right? It's just depending on where you invested. Now, if you would have put $10 million in and now you're down 30%, well, now you're down $3 million.
That's a rough morning.
Right? So I think this speaks to the dangers of investing in individual stocks. This also speaks to not investing at highs unless you're dollar cost averaging. That's important. So yeah, it really does matter where you invest, even though nobody can really predict the market, but you don't want to put lump sums of money in. This is why you put small amounts of money in every single month, right? I think that's important to tell people, because it's like if somebody's just looking at it like, okay, the market's at an all-time high right now, Nvidia, let me just put $300,000 in Nvidia. No,
nope, don't do it.
It could potentially work out for you, or it may not, right? But in the theory of, hey, just get in where you fit in, right? You got to be careful with that, because now if you get in at the wrong time, it's going to take years.
It'd be a disaster
to break even. If you sometimes you might not ever break even. Who knows? It might turn into IBM for, anything can happen. So this is why index funds, right?
Yep.
ETF index funds are always safer than individual stocks. And this is why investing small amounts, and small amounts are relative. One person's small amount is $200. Another person's small amount is $10,000 a month, right? Yep. That might be a small amount to a person, but whatever you're feeling comfortable with, right? As long as you can do that on a monthly basis. If you could put, okay, I'm gonna put $1,000 a month into the stock market every single month, right? That might be a lot for some people. That might be a small amount for some people, right? But it's like you're chipping away at it every single month, so you're not fully exposing yourself to, putting too much money in at the wrong time and then having to pay the consequences for that.
Yes. VOO, VTI, VUG, VGT are some ones you can invest in. Troy, what do you think about ETFs and equality for all for Rashad's campaign?
Well, I hear the analogy. I think there's slight flaws in it, only because yes, they didn't win a championship, but these guys still performed at a high level, right? So like even a KD is still the first or second team NBA player. Kyrie is all like these guys are still performing, and so those stocks still could perform. They're not the stocks that have become all-stars and now they don't perform at the same level. So yeah, it's stronger together, but you could still get wins, right? So everything's not going to be Nvidia, but there might be an Amazon, right?
Yeah.
We talked about Meta, like they can perform individually, but the safer thing I think more is obviously the ETF or the index. So in that sense, yes. I mean, how many champions? There's only going to be one champion if we're using that the sports analogy. I don't want to. Oh wait, I have to have Nvidia. If I don't, then I didn't succeed in investing. Now you can find companies that perform at a high level for a long period of time. So the 20-year, like LeBron, 22-year All-Star, AD, Kawhi, like even Kawhi in a certain sense, like he's still going to be All-Star, he's still living. There'll be companies that perform. They may not have championship performance, but would you take 15% gain over the course of a year or 20% gains over the course of 3 years? You take that. Yeah. It's not going to be the 300 and whatever percent Nvidia's up now, but these are the type of wins that you have. But yeah, I think fundamentally, if I'm looking from a standpoint of what's the safest play, yes, I'm looking at ETFs. Yes, I'm looking at indexes. It gives me sector specific. Obviously, if I know sectors, that helps. And I know my interest in these sectors, that helps. And obviously the indexes is just over encompassing everything. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you don't win the playoff game, that's a bad jaw. They say in Philly. That's a bad jaw.
Who didn't win the playoff game?
Kyrie went in Boston.
A series or a game?
He didn't play.
I'm just saying that's a bad jaw. So what I'm saying is this: like, coaches got fired. I love Kyrie Irving. I love Kevin Durant. I mean, we just gotta be honest, though, right? Like coaches.
But did they perform?
If a coach gets fired, that's a bad jaw.
Yeah.
The coach is going. That's inevitable. Coaches are getting fired.
Not if you're winning.
Yeah, they do.
Not if you're winning.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
that's a bad choice.
No, ask Adrian Griffin in Milwaukee how that worked out. He was 36-13. He lost his job.
Big facts. Hey, Doc Rivers, goofy ass. He fired Doc Rivers, y'all.
They were underachieving
at 36-13.
Oh, Doc Rivers did worse.
He had the number one. You're not underachieving. You had the number one record in the Eastern Conference. You lost your job to a guy that underperformed at his job. Actually made you 500. He lost his job, and he was number one. So I'm saying, like, the players.
That's a professional dirty Mac too, to be the consultant for the coach and then to get the job.
The Brooklyn Nets had Kyrie Irving, they had Kevin Durant, and they had James Harden.
Yeah.
Right. By any metric, as a sports fan, by any metric, did they underachieve or no?
From a sports standpoint, I'm not denying that. I'm saying from an investment standpoint, because
I'm only looking from
they're definitely ARKK.
I'm looking at it from a GM standpoint, right? If you're a GM and you spent a lot of money, you have to see if your team has overachieved, if they've hit expectations, or if they underachieve. It's only three things that you can do.
No,
right?
It's not. Let me interrupt you for a second, because what you're saying is from a team standpoint, right? But in the course of that, was KD an all-star?
Yes.
Was James Harden an all-star?
Yes. As a team, they didn't help the team win. They underachieved.
Only one team is going to win. That's what I'm saying. Only one team.
They underachieve enough.
Of course. That's not even. That's
crazy. They were
the biggest underachievement jobs in the history.
If I was a GM and put out that I mean, they were still all-stars, but the expectation was like get to the finals.
Of course. Right. But that's the same expectation right now of the Nuggets, who didn't, right? They were the favorites to win the championship. They didn't. Was Jokic still the MVP?
That was bullshit too. I don't know. Yo, the boy in Oklahoma City should have got that one. I don't know who he upset.
He didn't win. He had it first.
When you're a GM of a team, if you're the owner of a team, your priority is not to see if your players are going to make the all-star team or not. Your priority is to win games and to sell out arenas and to reach the highest levels. But anyway, AMD. Let's talk about AMD.
Let's do it.
Yes. Oh, poor baby. Oh, poor
No,
baby.
don't do poor baby. Don't do poor baby yet.
AMD. So everybody's talking about Nvidia. We all know the story behind Nvidia. We're going to talk about that shortly. But you know, AMD is actually at 166, which is around $60 short of its all-time high, right?
Yep.
So they're far below their all-time high, where a lot of other stocks are at all-time highs. So a lot of people are looking at it from a standpoint, okay, Nvidia's run has already happened, right?
Yep.
They're at all-time highs. They're, you know, the biggest story in the stock market. So where can I see potential gains, right? AMD, the CEOs are actually cousins.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
AMD, another chip maker, another company that has had, you know, tremendous success over the past 10 years, but has not had, you know, stock market success over the last 6 months. So they're looking at it like, okay, well, AMD is a place where I could potentially see real gains, right? For people as opposed to investing at top. So AMD, is this an opportunity to actually make some real money?
Yes. But the thing is, I've been in AMD since 2016. Almost the entire industry is at the top because Nvidia has drug up the entire sector. So we got to wait for a pullback. If Nvidia, I mean, AMD got to like 146, I would be happy for sure. Love AMD, but the big issue is with the 10-for-1 stock split, it makes Nvidia cheaper. And they were asking on Stock Club, like, should I sell off AMD and now go to Nvidia? Well, even though they're technically a monopoly that operates with two different cousins, they operate in two different sectors, serve two different audiences. So my thing has always been invest in the top two in the sector. I would say that AMD is not in the top two. Troy, this is why I will lean on you on the TSM. TSM is much better for sure. So just because something is cheaper does not make it better or have more gains. I fear that probably 10% of retail or 20% of retail investors that are in AMD are definitely going to leave post June 7th and pile that money into Nvidia because it's a better company and it's cheaper. And that's why I always told you, never compete on price. So now you have a better company with more fanfare that hedge funds love more and retail loves more. It's cheaper than your stock. Now, I'm sure Jensen called his cousin, said everything's going to be okay. Can't wait for them to announce whatever partnership they're going to do. But competing on price is a mistake. We definitely can get some gains out of AMD. They will be shorter. You can get 20 to 40% return on AMD. But by far, NVIDIA for sure is hands down number one in that space. I would then look at TSM and ASML after that to get a secondary position. And if you're in AMD already, just continue to hold.
Okay, fair enough. I don't say poor baby. I think everything you said is legit. The 10-to-1 split of NVIDIA from a retail investment standpoint makes sense because yes, the number is going to come in smaller than what AMD currently trades at. But this is something we've talked about again since inception in 2021. I believe what month is this? November 22nd of 2021. Its all-time high was $154.
Yep.
Obviously, we saw what happened in 2022, where the entire Nasdaq pulled back 30%. Nvidia was $55.
Yep.
$55.
Right.
At this point, I think this is when I was telling everybody get 1,000 shares of a company. AMD was one of the companies that I got 1,000 shares in. That has gone up over 100%. So even now in 2024, when it got up to 200, great. It's had a pullback. We've seen over the past couple months down to 166, which is great. I think when we talk about 1 and 2 in terms of semis, yes, TSM, and I spoke about it last week. And if you invested last week, you're up 9% on the stock. Whatever you did in the options game, I mean, great. It is important. I put it, if it's not in the top 2 or 3, it's definitely in my top 5.
Yeah.
At one point, you would say Nvidia and AMD would be 1 and 2. I know
at one point they were. Yep.
Super Semi has come in, and I mean, we can't deny the rocket ship that has been on. But I put it in there. ASML, I talked about some of the issues that it may face in the near future. But I think from a standpoint, if I'm looking at who's producing the highest level of semiconductor, these are the 1 and 2s. I think these are the 1s and 2s, right? And the price point issue, I think, is where it could have some revenue growth. Whereas Nvidia, we already talked about the GPUs being anywhere between 30 to 40,000.
Yep.
I know Blackwell's coming. We'll talk about what that is in a few. That product is somewhere in the price point of 30 to 35,000 per GPU. So that's very expensive. If you can come in with a product that is efficient at a lower price point, again, you're not the premier brand in the space, but if you can come in with something that is affordable,
grab some market share.
You can grab a little. I'm not saying that you're going to take all the market share, but there's a potential for revenue growth inside that market share at a price point that makes sense for some of these mid to small tier cap companies, right? Like everybody's not going to be Meta and just come out and say we're buying 300,000 of your GPUs. Yep. There are going to be some mid-tier companies that won't be able to afford that price point, but need a product that can be as efficient. I think AMD can, if they structure this correctly, if they have a product, if they have the rollout in the right manner, I think they can be in that number 2 spot for those mid to small tier companies. So I don't think it's poor baby yet. I think that there is some space here in the semiconductors form. So I still like them. I'm a thousand.
Me too. Only reason I said poor baby is because retail investors were saying, well, they pretty much are the same in price.
Right.
Capital is going to leave there. They're going to go to Nvidia. Then Nvidia is going to shoot up to 300 again or 400, and then the money will go back into AMD. Yeah. It's still cyclical.
It's still a great company. I think it's still part. We talk about leadership, and obviously we strong leadership, but we talk about the AI economy. Like they all fall encompassing of it. Nvidia is the darling of it, the star of it. But there's plenty of companies inside that, if you're in them in the right time, there's definitely some growth potential.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's talk about the Nvidia 10-to-1 split. We haven't talked about that yet because it happened last week after Monday.
Last Wednesday, yeah.
So okay. 10-to-1 split. Let's talk about what it means, future outlook for Nvidia. How far can the stock run up? What's get the whole spiel?
Yeah. So now it'll pretty much be like $100 a share and some change. Makes it a lot more attractive to the retail investors. We went through this with Apple before. We went through it with Tesla. Mm-hmm. So everyone wants to know, should I buy as soon as it splits? I'm always going to buy based off price. So it could slide back to maybe $89, $90, but anything sub 100 is good. 1 year return for Nvidia, 120%. Excuse me. Yeah. Year to date, 120%. 1 year, 245%. Last 5 years, 28%. Last 10 years, 22,000% return. Hold for long term. Put this in chat. A lot of your problems go away if you hold for a 10-year period. I screamed this at InvestUs 1, 2, 3, and I will scream it again this year on stage and give away 10 grand. Most of your problems go away if you hold for a long period of time. One of the best companies I've ever seen, incredibly focused, high price point, but also on the deliverable side, they deliver amazing returns for the client base that they are serving, that they have. I want to say, and I don't want to be too early in this, but Jensen does feel Steve Jobs-esque. Like these chips feel like their iPhone. And at a time when that iPhone was revolutionary, he's doing the same thing in their space. Management team is incredibly competent and incredible. I've been along the stock. I've been beating the table about the stock for the last few years for sure. Shout out to everybody in Red Panda who got in. I appreciate you. And for everyone who asks who's the new Nvidia, there's no new LeBron, no new Tom Brady, no new Kobe, no new Michael Jordan. Either choose to invest in the best that there is or find something else. Now, normally, because people would ask, what's the new IG or Facebook or Netflix, is never going to be in the same sector. So I think the next revolution in 5 or 6 years could be quantum computing. But as far as the chip space, I think they have this unlock. BlackRock and Vanguard feel the same way. You can go look at how State Street feels about them as well. But one of the most amazing runs I've seen for a company ever. And shout out to all my gamers who was big on Nvidia before the public caught wind of them.
Yeah. Shout out to everybody that reached out. I'm sure y'all got a bunch of text messages about it. I know I did.
Yes.
And trying to explain the splits is always fun because it's like, okay, this is what it means. And the best way I can put it is it's a psychological maneuver, right? Like,
well timed too.
Yeah, fundamentally, nothing really changes inside of the company, right? For every one share that you had, now you receive 10. So if you had 100, you have 1,000. If you had 200, now you got 2,000, right? So the price point, and we're looking at the price now. Obviously, the market was closed. It's at 1064. So when it trades, it'll be at $1. If it stopped today, if it traded, which it will on I think June 7th and starting June 10th, people will start receiving their shares. If it stopped today, it would be at $106 and maybe 50 cents. And that's how it would work, right? So each share, the money value will be the same, even inside the options market. They're going to split it the same way. But what it does do, that's why I said it's a psychological thing, is that it does seem more appealing to retail investors rather than paying almost $1,100 for a share. It seems it's a lot more appealing to buy it at $110 a share, right? Absolutely. This is the company, especially if you're new to investing, you've been hearing everything about it. You've been seeing it everywhere for the past at least 2 years, but definitely over the past 12 months, you've heard about AI. Here's your opportunity. People will come into the space and say, all right, well, now it's my opportunity to grab some shares, which is great, especially if people have been holding Nvidia, like you said, maybe 5 years already. 2 years, or even if you've been holding it for a year, you've seen some extreme growth, and so it's encouraging right now. Now there's an opportunity for you to get into it. I know you said it'll pull back under sub 100 with the amount of news. I'll throw this question out to both of you guys. With the amount of news, the amount of media attention, everything we're seeing around it, where do you think it runs up to? Do you see it going to 110? 115, maybe 120 before it actually pulls back? Or
probably 110, and then my long target is for it to get back to 515 in 4 or 5 years. In 4 or 5 years. Yep. They're producing record profit, record revenue, and in a space where a lot of American companies are not producing something of true value and infrastructure. They pretty much have the keys to the kingdom for digital infrastructure for the next 10 years.
So
it's tough.
Okay. So do you think Nvidia will eventually become the number one company in the world?
I don't know if they will stay there, but I do think they have a chance.
I was gonna say 515. Yeah, I think that puts them there, right?
Yeah. But that's in a 5-year period. And of course, Microsoft, of course, they're a big player in AI through proxy, through owning a large percentage of OpenAI. But I do think they have it. My only fear is Saudi Aramco. If we hit recession, I think that business will be more valuable. Or let's say global economic pullback, because they won't let the R word fly now. So if we have a global economic pullback, but if they eventually get to like that $300 range, $400 range, I think they could be the number one company. I don't think they stay there long term. I think Microsoft ultimately becomes number one and stays there for a long period of time. But I think Nvidia will at least touch number one in the market cap in the next couple of years, 2 to 3 years.
Should Nvidia be added to the Dow?
Absolutely. Get 3M or IBM or one of the little old guards out of here. It's cheap enough. It's really infrastructure play. There's a real business there. I don't know why it would not be added. It was not like the case of Tesla where the business was murky in some areas. This is the one of the few companies that is clicking on all cylinders, and almost, if you make a SWOT analysis, they almost have no weaknesses. Almost don't have any. So yeah, I think they should be added to the Dow. For sure.
So for people that are not invested in Nvidia, what do you suggest? Should they invest now? Should they wait to the split? Should they wait till it pulls back under $100 after it splits?
Yeah, after it splits and sub 100. So maybe $95. If it gets to 89, I'll be elated. For everyone in options, Troy, this is your specialty. Rashad, your specialty. 2 year, don't do 0-day expiration. Don't do any 1 years. Hold for 2 years, you'll be good. But yeah, wait till after the split. Sub 100, definitely. 89 would be a great price, but 92, 94, I'm not mad at if you're holding for the long term.
Yeah, I'll go with the first thing, which is, does it become the number one company in the world? Yeah, I think it does happen. Like I said, it's shortly will at this pace. In the next couple of quarters, it will pass Apple in market cap.
Yep.
And then Microsoft is up next. I think, again, long term, I think Microsoft will be the number one company. It is now as far as market cap, but yeah, it passes it. If you looked and you listened to the earnings report this week, yes, it blew out its earnings again. The data centers are just, running rampant. but the Blackwell GPU has not been a part of that revenue structure yet, which is going to be released later this year. And Ian, it's something that you've talked about plenty of times, but for people who are not familiar with it, it is their new GPU. And here's what it focuses on. It focuses on energy efficiency. So when we're talking about how efficient can it do it, how much power does it take? Well, the Blackwell GPU is designed specifically for that. And it's going to improve advanced simulations, AI, quantum computing, data analysis, and it's going to reduce energy costs. And so you're talking about getting a higher quality product that's going to cost you less to use. You take that into account. The price point again is between 30 to 35,000 per GPU. We've already heard huge companies, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Nvidia, whether it's Meta, not Nvidia, whether it's Meta, talking about their commitment to having those GPUs. Yeah. When you're talking about these mega cap companies and their reliance on it going forward, especially in the AI race, I think we're talking about a few more quarters, at least the next 18 months, where they're going to continue to dominate. And if they have, I don't know. I haven't seen this, Ian. You can tell me I haven't seen a company report this many quarters where it's absolutely destroying all of its estimates, and we don't see a slowdown. So I think it becomes the number one company. And should it be added to the Dow? So last week we told you about how the Dow is rated. So just really quickly, the Dow is made up of 30 stocks and it's price weighted average, right? So Nvidia couldn't come in, and we spoke about that because of its price. So the higher price stocks, because of the index moves higher based on the lower price one. If the percentage moves, it remains the same. So each dollar is not weighted equally, right? So United Health, which is like over $500, and let's take Nvidia, if it comes in at 100, that $1 that stock moves versus the $1 that Nvidia moves would not be the same. So percentages are taken into it. So it coming down to that level, I think it's not even a matter of if, I believe it's a matter of when it gets added to the Dow. And I think that will happen within the next 12 months. I see it joining it.
Yeah, Nvidia alone is worth more than the entire German stock market. And going back to the picks and shovels, like imagine in the 1700s, you have people that are selling the pick shovels and buckets, and then here comes a company with a bulldozer that allows you to extract 2 tons of gold out of one mountain. That's what Nvidia is selling.
Or here comes a company that says if you're going inside to dig for gold, you're going to need clothing. And that clothing needs to be tough, and it needs to be rigid, and it needs to be sustainable in all temperatures. And then you call that company Levi. And now Levi Strauss becomes
all the lifetimes ahead. Like,
right.
But it's the power of staying focused. Like, a lot of people didn't see this coming. I think because of the geopolitical stuff, I'm going to be very clear. TSM should have the spot. But because of the potential conflict there, that allowed them to get into pole position and become number one. And he's done a great job at every quarter. Like they're smashing these numbers out of the park. It would be the equivalent of a player coming in and like averaging 45 points and 20 rebounds a game.
What they're doing is ridiculous. I'm glad you brought up the TSM piece. I spoke about it last week. I said that was my option trade of the month. It still is. But I'm starting to hear it now. Like maybe TSM is just underpriced. Right, especially for its importance and its dominance. We're not talking, and we talked about from a geopolitical standpoint. If anything is to happen to that company, what that means, not just for them, but what it means for the entire, pretty much U.S. economy. Nvidia, Microsoft, Apple, Amazon, Meta. If something is to happen with that company, you're talking about a major issue globally. Right now, TSM holds more than 90% of the market share for leading edge semiconductor manufacturing. 90%. That's ridiculous. And so
whoever got
at these numbers, there might be a case point that it might be underpriced here. I know there was a little bit of consolidation. It pulled back to 90 or maybe mid to early last year. Right now it's trading over 150, so 163. I can see it getting to 170 is not out the realm of belief, but it might be undervalued at this point, especially for what it means to the economy.
Absolutely. Whoever got Nicki Minaj out of jail this past weekend.
She's out?
Yeah, she's out. Taiwan Semiconductor called them to negotiate y'all freedom. Right. They should at least, in a perfect world, if they didn't have that geopolitical issue, they'd be 350, 400 easily.
Yeah. Shout out to Nicki. They had it in the mobile jail. That was crazy. I never seen anything like that. It was like a mobile jail.
Tough.
Please get in.
To y'all who be packaging up your pre-rolls on international trips, they not playing.
These ain't mine. That's mine.
But don't worry.
These ain't no vapes, no
Technically,
pre-rolls.
that's not my bag. Nope.
These ain't mine.
Does not work.
I'm happy to hear that she's good. I know her tour broke records here, so I think she's on the internet already. So yeah, shout out to her.
Hit the like button and share, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, now we're gonna go into a special segment that we did a few weeks ago when we was in DC with our good friend Wally Adeyemo and Lauren Underwood. And we did this at the Treasury Department, office of the Treasury Department. And something I think is a very insightful conversation. So we'll shoot to that now. All right, guys. Welcome to a special segment of Market Mondays. We are in Washington, D.C., and we are with Representative Lauren Underwood of the 14th District of Illinois. Thank you for hosting us again today. And we are with the Deputy Secretary of the United States Treasury, Wally Adeyemo.
Well done. Appreciate it.
First and foremost, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to have a couple of minutes with us. Appreciate it.
Happy to do anything for you, but especially for my favorite Congresswoman.
Smart, man.
So I'll start off with the first question as far as access to capital through community lenders, right? That's something that is a big thing. We recently spoke with the Vice President last week about access to capital, especially when it comes to small business entrepreneurs, Black entrepreneurs. So can you talk about that topic and what you guys have done?
Yeah, and I think you've spoken to the person who's driving much of this work, the Vice President. But under her leadership, when she was a senator, they approved $9 billion of money that could go to community development financial institutions and Black-owned banks throughout this country to be able to lend to small businesses. $1.4 billion of that money went to Black-owned institutions, so Black-owned banks, that allows them to give loans to community-based small businesses. And one of the things that I'm proudest of over the last 3 years is we've seen the number of Black-owned small businesses double in America. But when I sit down with small business owners, and I'd consider you also small business owners, the two things they say that they need is access to capital, and the second one is access to customers, because having customers and building that up allows you to get access to more capital. So we've taken a lot of steps to make sure that we've gotten that $1.4 billion into the hands of Black-owned banks who can then lend to Black-owned businesses so they can grow. But we're also focused on making sure that we find customers for those Black-owned businesses as well.
Thank you again for having us. One of my favorite topics to talk about, and everybody in our audience knows, is semiconductors. We talk about how we invest in a bunch of them. I want to talk about the Semi and Science Act, because maybe most people aren't familiar with it, its implications and its importance. We talk about having chips made here. We spoke about TSM having development in Arizona, Micron, Global Foundries, all these companies. Talk about the importance of having the United States at the forefront of leadership in the space.
Yeah, and I think one of the things we just looking back a little while and go back to the pandemic and think about the things that were hard to get. You couldn't get a new car, you couldn't get an iPad, you couldn't get a bunch of things. And the reason you couldn't get it was because ultimately there were these little things called chips that they couldn't have. So there was a bunch of new cars sitting on lots all over the country, but they couldn't sell them because they were lacking these processors, these microelectronic chips. And what the president said is, like, we should never be in a position again where the United States isn't producing these things that are critical to the economy of the future. You need these chips to be able to produce everything from the cell phone that you have on your lap there to your iPad, to anything today. So the U.S. should be a leading producer, but we shouldn't only produce them in certain communities. We should produce them in places where we're going to create jobs for people who have been left out and left behind for so long. So you look what the president just did a few weeks ago. He made an announcement in Syracuse where Micron is deciding to open up a huge factory, just to put it simply. And that factory is going to power the economy in that region and create thousands of jobs and economic opportunity for people who have been left out and left behind. So part of our goal is making investments and making sure that we can build these chips, but also to make those investments in communities where people have underinvested for too long.
From your perspective, what do you think the role of the Treasury should be in addressing some of the economic inequalities that we're seeing in the country?
One of given my background and who I am, I think deeply about how we make sure that the work the Treasury Department gets to communities that have been left out and left behind for too long. But I'm also supported by a boss who thinks about this as well. And what Secretary Yellen says is that the best way to grow the American economy, to do what's best for all Americans, is to invest in communities where potential exists, but opportunity hasn't for too long. So by making sure that we get access to capital, to Black small business owners, to Latino small business owners, and allowing them to hire people in their communities, to invest in those communities, to build out that economy, it's not only good for those communities, it's good for the entire U.S. economy. People often fail to realize that today, Black-owned small businesses employ 1.3 million Americans. They have a combined payroll of over 1.7 billion. That should double. That should grow because we're not only in the business of making sure that Black incomes grow, and over the last 3 years, they've grown faster than other incomes, but also that Black wealth generation grows because we know that building wealth within that community will translate to a stronger communities that will translate to a stronger U.S. economy.
So inflation is the invisible killer of wealth, especially over the last couple of years. You know, we've seen inflation that a lot of people have never seen in their lifetime before, and it's affecting everyday people. So I want to talk about the Inflation Reduction Act. Can you explain that, and how has the implementation been beneficial to the average everyday American?
Top focus for the secretary, for the president, for the vice president, for myself every day is doing everything we can to cut costs for Americans, to make sure that you have more money at the end of the month than you have spent, so that you start to build up wealth and savings and the ability to invest in your future. And the Inflation Reduction Act was focused on that and continues to be focused on that. One of the biggest expenses that people continue to have is filling up their car. Paying for energy for their house and in other places. So what the Inflation Reduction Act is, it puts in place a number of incentives that will allow you to reduce the cost of energy. Everything from giving you a tax incentive to put in for repairs to your home that will be energy efficient, it'll help you cut the cost of that. If you're looking to buy a new car or a used car, giving you a tax incentive for buying an energy efficient car that will not only be cheaper because of the cut cost from our tax incentive, but because it's going to cost you less because you're not going to need to put gas into that car going forward. But in addition to cutting costs there, we also want to reduce some of the costs that people face from buying prescription drugs. And part of what the bill does is it caps the amount people pay for insulin to $35 if you are someone who is a senior. But what we found is that by taking that step from the federal government and saying that we're going to start with seniors, we've seen a number of the companies follow suit and say that, okay, we're going to cut that cost for all Americans. So we're very focused on using the Inflation Reduction Act, but every other tool we have to try and reduce costs for the American people. But we also know that in addition to reducing costs, we want to increase incomes so that you have more money in your account. One of the things that we're proudest of is that for Black Americans in particular, our incomes are growing faster than inflation, 7% faster than inflation at the moment. And we think that that's the type of thing that we want to continue and build upon going forward.
That is a very encouraging number. Something else that is a huge cost to many Black homes is the cost of living, right? Either I'm renting or owning a home. We know interest rates are at 7.5%. I wonder if there's policies or plans to figure out initiatives, and we spoke to the vice president about this as well, and she gave some insight to it. How do we make home ownership, which we know is a key to wealth creation, how do we make it more affordable for the next generations?
And I think for most Americans, in particular Americans of color, the greatest source of wealth is your home. That is the thing that you use to build wealth that you potentially will become generational wealth. And unfortunately, because of generations of discrimination, Black and Latino households have had access to homes far less than others. So a big part of our goal is to build more housing, because the reason that we have costs, part of the reason the costs are so high in terms of housing is because there's not enough of it. Not only in urban communities, but in rural communities, but all over the country. So one of the things the president has proposed is additional incentives, both in terms of helping with down payment assistance, because I know that for example, for myself, when I wanted to go buy a home, it wasn't like my parents were able to give me down payment assistance because they didn't have wealth. They hadn't built generational wealth. So the government wants to help people who are looking to buy homes with down payment assistance. We also want to take steps to encourage communities to change zoning laws, because another challenge we have is that in many of these communities that are nice, they want to prevent you from being able to build additional housing, which means that you're restricting the ability of new people to move in. So we've also, in Congress, submitted a bill that will create incentives where the federal government will give money to communities that change these restrictive zoning laws in order to make sure that you're able to build more housing that first-time home buyers can get into. Ultimately, building more housing is going to be the key. But in addition to building that housing, we need to create opportunities for first-time homeowners to be able to get into that housing. You said you spoke to the Secretary of Education earlier, and I think one of the challenges we have, and I had this challenge too, was that for a number of Black Americans who want to buy their first home, they're coming into that with a lot of debt, school debt. And I know that paying off school debt was something, as I spent most of my career in public service, was hard. So the idea that we've created loan forgiveness programs not only is something that is a good thing to do, but it creates real opportunity for people to, instead of investing their incomes in paying off that debt, they can invest that income in investing in their first home and building up that wealth over time.
I think you have an incredibly remarkable story, but can you talk to us about how did you end up in this position and what initially made you interested in public service and finance?
Yeah, and I think like most people, the reason that I'm here is because of my parents. My mom and my dad both immigrated to this country, and they decided that they were going to get into public service themselves. My dad was and is an educator, my mom a nurse, and they taught us the importance of serving our communities. And for me, I had no idea that I'd ever get a chance to serve in a place like the Treasury Department. I'm the first Black American to be in my job. And part of that for me, and the reason I got here, was because ultimately I started out thinking about what could I do I went to school in a community where the school I went to was a majority minority. And when I went to college, I recognized that not only was it a place where no one looked like me, no one was from those types of communities, and it got me interested in the question of why that was. And ultimately, from my perspective, part of what drove that was I lived in a community where there was a lot of talent, but there wasn't a lot of opportunity. So it got me engaged in the question of what does it take to create opportunity, and a big part of that is economics. A big part of that is capital. A big part of that is just access to information. And that led me to go end up working for another skinny Black man with a funny name named Barack Obama, and to get a chance to work in his administration for 8 years.
So from an educational standpoint, U.S. Treasury, people know that they print money, right? But can you explain, because we talked about a variety of different things, I don't think the general public is actually informed on what the U.S. Treasury Department actually does. So can you kind of just explain the purpose of the U.S. Treasury Department and what it encompasses?
So one of those key things is we do print the money, and one of the things I'm proudest of is that Janet Yellen, who is my boss, she signs the money. And Janet Yellen is the first woman in the over 200-year history of our country to be the Secretary of the Treasury. And a big part of what we focus on every day is what can we do to help grow the U.S. economy so that everyone can succeed. And what does that mean? It means trying to make sure that we get access to capital for communities throughout the country, rural and urban, through things like the CDFIs, through banks and financial institutions, but also thinking about what we can do to work with companies throughout the country to help create access for communities of color, but communities all over the country, again, to access to customers. Fundamentally, the thing that we know is that when American communities succeed, all Americans succeed. And in addition to printing the money, the IRS is part of the Treasury Department. And I know that when we got here at the beginning of 2021, the IRS was answering 13% of the calls it received. That, wherever you're from, that's an F. But because the president and the secretary fought so hard as part of the Inflation Reduction Act, they got money to improve the IRS's services. And today, this year, the IRS answered more than 88% of their calls. But not only answered your calls, but also provided you with online tools. And why does that matter? Because on average, an American spends almost $200 a year to file their taxes. That's $200 that you could be using to invest in your children, invest in your families. And that's why this year with that money that the Secretary and the President fought for, we created this thing called Direct File, which is a pilot that allows Americans to file their taxes for free directly with the IRS. And it also means that you're going to get your tax refund as quickly as possible. One of the things that I think I am the most focused on is making sure that Black-owned small businesses run by women, small businesses run by people of color, get access to tax credits that they deserve, which is money you can put in your pockets to invest in your business. The IRS has these resources. We want to make that more available to you. So from the standpoint of printing the money to collecting the money to helping to make sure that American small businesses in America can get access to their resources, those are the things the Treasury Department does every day.
Representative Underwood, I mean, when we talk about access, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, right? We're talking about, inviting Rashad to the State of the Union, us meeting with the Secretary of Education, us being here now at the United States Treasury. You've granted access to us. And so I want to talk about the importance of that, where that comes from. And you're historic in your own right? Like, you have a great history. So I would love for you to share with the audience, because it's inspiring, but it's also inspirational as well.
Well, I'm a fan of the show. And so in listening to the various guests that you all have on and the conversations that we have about building Black wealth and just being more savvy and taking advantage of opportunities to grow our personal incomes and buy homes and all these other things, I realized that there needed to be a more direct intersection with what's happening here in Washington, D.C., what's happening on Capitol Hill, and the debates and discussions that we're having every day on behalf of the American people. And so obviously the Black Caucus has a big emphasis on creating a Black wealth agenda. I do a lot of work to lower out-of-pocket costs for the American people, and I just wanted to be able to lift up that work in welcoming you to Washington, D.C., and creating a day where we could have that conversation really focus earnestly so that you could share that with your audience, right? We know that this is very much a time where people have to make a choice. We know that this is a time when people are really surveying, have they made progress over the last several years? Do they feel like life is better right now? And there's so much information that people just don't have, right, because of lack of access. And so when we're in institutions like the Capitol, when we're in institutions like the Treasury, when you're at the White House, those are the people's house. And, there might be perceived barriers to entry. And I want folks to know that, I work for the community, and it's my job to make sure that you know what we're doing on your behalf. So when you hear the Deputy Secretary say that he's focused every day on increasing access to capital, I hope people take that to heart. And even if it's a program with this crazy acronym, it doesn't mean it's not for you. It means that we really need you to apply and to go ahead and submit those forms so that you can get your loans repaid, or you could get, a grant, or you could become a vendor and get a contract to, service your community, right? And I think that oftentimes for millennials, African Americans, we just don't always feel that these services and programs are for us.
Representative Underwood, I'm proud of you and I appreciate you.
Thank you.
If you could talk to your 21-year-old self, 25-year-old self, what advice would you give yourself, given the seat that you're in now, and would you do anything differently in your journey?
What I would tell my 21-year-old self is to 100% bet on myself. And I was always ambitious. I was a dreamer. I had big goals, but I didn't know that they could happen. I'm the youngest Black woman to ever be elected to Congress. I was elected at the age of 32. I was elected 10 years after I graduated from college. I'm a nurse. And I ran for office because my congressman lied to our community about his intentions to vote to repeal the Affordable Care Act and take away health care for people like me with pre-existing conditions. And I think that so many of us witness injustices every day, and we feel like we don't have agency. We feel like we don't have power. We feel like we can't make a difference. And if we, for some reason, think that we do have a voice that would matter, we're not willing to go all in to fight for that change. And I was just crazy enough to do it. But we won. I flipped a seat. I beat a Republican incumbent. And now I'm in my third term in the Congress, making a difference, expanding access to health care for millions of Americans every day through this Inflation Reduction Act that you heard the Deputy Secretary talk about. And so I just want folks to know that our voices are desperately needed in these halls in Congress, in institutions like the Treasury. We belong here. And we have to be informing the process, taking every opportunity to make our voices heard so that America works for all of us.
Deputy Secretary and Representative Lauren, thank you for your time. I greatly appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having us. We appreciate you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shout out to Wally and Lauren. Definitely dope conversation.
Yeah.
Deputy Secretary of the Treasury Department.
It's pretty powerful.
For sure.
When you think about, in terms of, we talk about money all the time when we're here, we're talking about the Secretary of the Treasury, Janet Yellen. Like, we walk past, and I'm like,
Yeah, we walk past it.
that's our office right there.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't the level of access. Like, I kind of allude to it, but I mean, yes, that's incredible. That just doesn't happen. They don't just take meetings with anyone, and they definitely just don't do interviews and open the doors for us. So extremely grateful for that
Very
opportunity.
thankful for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you to Representative Underwood for setting up the day for us and setting up the interview for us as well.
Yes.
Very insightful conversation. All right. So back to the stocks. Should we expect a crash or correction following the presidential election?
Depends on who's in office. Hopefully, if Trump wins, he is as presidential as he was the first time when he won, to give the market some kind of calm and relief. So, will there be a pullback? Yes, there's a pullback every month. I don't think we'll have a big correction as a result, because I think once whoever wins is in, we'll be very clear in what the policies are, and then you'll know which companies should do well based on those affiliations and initiatives that they want to push. Pullback, yes, but I think there's a lot of fear going into it. But if you look through any presidential cycle, of course, this summer may be a little bit rocky, but by the time we get, I think, to September, October, I think a winner will be priced in. There'll be a strong Christmas rally, and then we have some issues that we have to face going into next year. But I think we'll be fine. I think we worry too much about smaller issues that are not the biggest reasons why the market will drop or fluctuate. I would keep my eyes more so on interest rates, if there's a cut or if they raise, quantitative easing, and then also if other countries actually go through a recession and announce it. Those have more of a weighting than the presidential election itself. For a trader, you're going to get a lot more volatility, but for the long term, I don't see a big pullback as a result.
Yeah.
Plus, the powers that be, I think, are telling them, like, you need to signal some confidence to the market.
Yeah. I think that's the key. When you think of like presidential elections, even midterms, we spoke about this. Uncertainty leads to volatility.
Absolutely.
And so if there's no certainty, if we don't know where we're headed, then you might see some volatility. I don't know if a correction will be in the calling cards, but based on even like the stock market's almanac, if they study the history of presidential cycles, and it's always it references the best 6 months to trade. And so if we're traders, if we're investors, I always look at those best 6 months, especially when we're talking about post-election, or we're talking like pre-election or midterms. And historically, it's been from the month of November to April.
Yeah.
So obviously November 4th, the election will happen. Traditionally in an election year, it's been a hold, right? People will hold wherever the positions they're in to see where we're going to settle, because obviously there might be uncertainty, or there could be certainty and say, all right, well, the incumbent will be run back. And then, like you said, we prepare for the next year. And so we've seen the summer months slow down. And so the worst 6 months post-election has been obviously from May to October. And so historically, that has shown that since 1949. And so we got to keep that into mind. But again, I think it's priced in by, I would say, September.
Fall.
Historically, over the past 5 years, and that's why I said micro money is just such a great barometer of that. We've seen the past 3 Septembers and what that has meant when we're talking about sell-offs, when we're talking about people trying to finish out their fiscal year, We've seen pullbacks across the board, whether it's the Dow, whether it's the S&P, whether it's the Nasdaq. We've seen October some pullbacks, and if we look at the history of pullbacks, look at when these crashes have happened. Look at when these corrections have happened in those months. So I think it gets priced in, and then after, I think we'll settle, and then I'll be looking to figure out, all right, certainty or uncertainty will determine the volatility and to determine if and when we should invest.
Yeah, look at pullbacks as a time to get into the market more than anything. Like, just change the way you see it. And quality companies only. A lot of people run into trouble when you're trying to trade it or buy companies that are not quality. And I know people are like, how long can you talk about Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Tesla, Lilly? I'm like, if there are more quality stocks, like there's some like KLA that are quality, AutoZone, but there isn't. I remember maybe 12 years ago, you probably had 60 or 70 great companies that you can get returns from. It's not like that anymore. Give up on sector rotation. Just focus on the ones that are great. Indexes first and ETFs, then add 2 to that. You'll be fine. But I think a lot of these issues with losses come from trying to time it on a trade basis, where if you hold it for a long period of time, everything is going to be okay. If I made you money, please put yes in chat. Investing is not that damn. It's not rocket science, show.
Yeah. Something,
you know, what's hard, like faking a moon landing. That's tough. This easy.
Yeah. So some things from a political standpoint could affect, right? When we're talking about taxes, when we're talking about capital gain taxes,
44% would.
That's just, I mean, that's crazy. And then obviously when we're talking about tariffs, I think it was 2 weeks ago we started talking about the tariffs that are presumed to be put on China if President Biden remains in office. That could affect companies, right? When we're talking about especially that region of the world and some of the companies that are building there with the hopes of finding a global landscape to expand their businesses, that plays a part. Part. So that could affect the bottom line for a lot of companies.
Yeah. Okay. So what about this company Archer?
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Maybe something in the meme stock area happened, but a lot of people asked me about this. Archer Aviation, I don't see what the hype is. The high was $17 in 2020. It's currently at $3.30. If you want to gamble, go ahead. But like, if Boeing's in trouble, Archer Aviation, which Boeing you can argue is a infrastructure and government investment as well, if they're not doing as well, I don't know why. What happened in the meme stock land to make people want this one, but I'm not a big fan of this one.
Yeah, I looked it up a little bit. So they're responsible for, I guess, the flying helicopter, like the electric helicopter that flies on its own. So they partner with ETA, which is, and we know if you watch the Premier League or if you watch anything in soccer, huge, right? Huge brand. When we talk about Emirates and we talk about ETA, those are the 2 biggest airlines and companies. But
nope.
Electric flying taxis. There's too many other quality things to be invested in outside of that. Just looking at this chart, this would be something as an example. If we looked at it like as something that you shouldn't invest in,
stay away.
Like if we're looking at it from a 6 month, we're looking at it from a year, 2 year. Not really attractive. No. So I'm not big on this one.
Unless Terrence Howard comes on and explain how the hydrogen atoms keeps it up in the air, and if you take out baranium and put vibranium back in, maybe I'll like it. But other than that, no.
He's out in these streets.
Yeah, shout out to Terrence Howard.
So, okay, so SpaceX, they are considering selling shares at a $200 billion valuation.
Smart.
So, A, what's your thoughts on that? And then B, how will SpaceX affect Tesla? And which one of those 2 companies is actually the company to invest in if you can actually invest in
it? Yeah, I love when you guys put this post up. I think if we can be very honest, SpaceX and Starlink are the 2 better companies. I know he can't walk away, but if I were Elon, I would try and find a CEO. I would be chairman of Tesla and focus on SpaceX and Starlink. I think a lot of people think because he owns all of the companies that it's going to directly benefit Tesla. Maybe, but unless they are acquired and put into one parent group or parent company, I don't think this will affect Tesla positively how people are hoping it will be. But I do think Starlink and SpaceX are like promising businesses if he is focused. Elon could be like a icon, like if he could find a little bit more right higher. So, but I don't think so. Someone asked me to do it. Do I see a 30% bump in Tesla if this becomes public? No. If you can invest in it on the private markets, please do so. I think it's going to be a revolutionary company, but I don't think this is going to drag up 30%. And it's never a good sign. Like if you need another company to raise the value of the one that's been in the dumps. So no. But what do you guys think?
I want to give a shout out to Aisha Bo, who is alumni of Earn Your Leisure, rocket scientist, and gave us great information on space exploration and the cost of it and the innovation that comes with being inside that space. But then I want to look at what history has shown us when it comes to Elon, especially when he has multiple companies. And so when I look back to when he was going to acquire Twitter, which is now X, what effect did that have on Tesla?
Negativo.
Right. And a lot of it, and you brought up the word focus, was because of the amount of focus that was taken away from the company that he was putting into the capital that it took to get that to buy the company, and then change it and rebrand it. And so Tesla consequently suffered a little bit. SpaceX, again, I think it's a great company if you can get into it. But I'd be interested to see how people view it. Will they view it in the same manner where, it's a great company, we know it, the valuation is super high. Does he have the time and focus and energy to put into this space, and will it affect the bread and butter, which has been Tesla over the past 5 years?
So Tesla, all right. The most important company in his portfolio moving forward in the next decade is Neuralink. The next most important company is Starlink.
Starlink, yep.
The next most important company is SpaceX. The next most important company is Twitter, X. And the next most important company is Tesla. So
that's your index right there. Can we make that Shotty's index, like Elon index?
In my power ranking of Elon Musk's portfolio, which is an extremely impressive portfolio,
it is.
I have Tesla as the fifth one. Now Tesla and X, they can kind of be interchanged. Maybe X is the fifth and Tesla's the fourth, but I don't see how Tesla really changes the world, right? Where you have a lot of other electric car companies, right? But there's not too many companies that can actually put a chip inside your brain and move a computer mouse, and it's the possibilities with Neuralink is unbelievable. Yeah. And then Starlink, I mean, we're in Ghana, and they lost the internet for a week, and it was like, well, as soon as they lost the internet, all these Starlink trucks started coming in, and people with money started to get Starlink. So when you're talking about like really supplying, there's no reason why my phone is like dropping calls, and I don't understand why FaceTime audio always works, but regular audio doesn't work, right? Why don't you just put the FaceTime audio as the regular audio, right?
Apple won't license it out. Yep.
So it's like, he's got this Starlink thing is going to be big.
Yep.
And then a lot of people have questions about SpaceX. Like, well, what does the company do? Well, what is the point of SpaceX? Like, it's more than just traveling to outer space. You're talking about like satellites that actually is kind of in tandem with Starlink. But space exploration has more purposes than just traveling to the moon, right? But I think that he's positioned with SpaceX to potentially do some big things. And Twitter is still important because it's a media company and they have billions of people.
Worst acquisition ever, though?
He paid too much money for it, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Look, there's a few others.
But yeah, but I just look at Tesla. I don't know how Tesla, what makes them so special, right? It's like at first they were synonymous with electric cars, but that's going away. Mm-hmm. Everybody has an electric car at this point. I don't know. I don't think Tesla changes the world, right?
I got a proposal.
How about-
GM, Ford, and Tesla need to merge.
But here's a proposition to that question. What is funding those companies? Right? Like he doesn't have the capital to get Twitter without Tesla. Most of his wealth is tied to the stock of Tesla. And so it becomes the funding arm. That's why he liquidates shares and every 6 months you see him because he's trying to innovate somewhere else. And so from that standpoint, it becomes super important because
a guy like Elon Musk.
Sequoia throw the bag at.
I mean, I get that part, but I'm saying for him.
He's far past the fundraising
now.
His own money liquidation. He could raise $1 billion in any given Tuesday. He can go to Saudi Arabia and get $100 billion. He can go
But that's the importance of Tesla.
It's the importance of being Elon Musk.
And his track record.
He's never gonna have a problem raising money. That's never gonna be.
He's proven.
They'll throw whatever. If Elon Musk wants to start a chipmunk manufacturing company today that actually manufactures
right in Arizona,
he will get $100 billion tomorrow from the Prince of Saudi Arabia and a bunch of other rich people from all over the world, let alone BlackRock and all of these different private equity. So
that's it. But that's what I'm saying. It's from a standpoint of private equity, right? When he wanted to get Twitter, where do you have to get the capital?
You have to liquidate, but I think that's because it's a bad investment. Like he literally bought at the top and at a premium.
That was a bad, he bought at the wrong price, but he still had to liquidate some of his assets from a company that he owns a lot of stock.
But they're also pushing back on that compensation package that he wanted for $56 billion. That's interesting. Because it's hard to liquidate that much capital when the stock is down and your shareholders are getting run into the ground.
Yeah. So I mean, you're talking about a guy for everything you named, like. Think about the impact that one human being has had out on the world. Like from everything you name, on top of being one of the co-founders of OpenAI.
We can't forget PayPal.
I mean, PayPal. I'm talking about like OpenAI. Had to be like you're the co-founder of that.
Well, I'm saying,
I mean, that's just crazy.
None of this happens if he doesn't start PayPal,
which is true. Which
is revolutionary.
And there was a company before that.
Giving the money for Starlink and SpaceX, like his fellowship fund has done incredibly well. Like you can argue he's one of the best capitalists ever. Like, but it's just the focus is needed.
Right.
The focus is needed.
But we'll see. But Tesla, I don't know. I don't know what they're gonna do to make themselves stand out.
GM, Ford, Tesla needs to come together be the big three. Because China's on your ass. Those cars are not better than anything I've seen out of China thus far. And in 10 years, China will have the space. And I know the probability of this happening is damn near zero, but that's the only edge they'll have.
Yeah.
Mercedes getting rid of their, and if we're going to be honest, like even the EV push and it being a cleaner, more fit, that was all bullshit marketing too. Like,
Somebody send in an EV, please.
All right. What's the most 3 overhyped sectors that people are?
Oh, perfect segue. Electronic vehicles, biopharma, and publicly traded wheat stocks. Easy.
The wheat stock pandemic.
Over with. Now, if you do it privately and shout to everybody in Denver when I live in Colorado, if you have Silver Peak or something like that, cool. But publicly traded, no. You got to pay Altria Group that fine, right? EVs. The thing that made Tesla special was his attachment to it, and at a time when the Prius was the preeminent green vehicle that didn't look that sexy, he made the vehicles look better. But what he did to Prius, China is now doing to him. Now you lose your edge. Biopharma, you can go look at the returns of biopharma. Not good. But the wheat stock thing, I think at some point there should have been one that is taken off. And it's been 10 years, 12 years.
It's over.
Major gains. So those are the 3.
You putting a stamp on it?
It never did anything to begin with. I mean,
it had
a good little pop in the beginning.
A slight pop.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you on a private side, you did amazing. But if you bought them publicly traded, and sham up in smoke, no pun intended.
Yeah.
But even on the private side, you know, even talking to Al Harrington, Rick Ross, and a lot of people, most people didn't make money on the marijuana. It wasn't as lucrative as it would seem to be. You know, you had the select few that really made a lot of money.
Yeah.
But you know, so much regulation, startup costs, taxes. It's not an easy industry to
You got some tough competitors too, like Rick talked about.
Yeah. Tilray, Aurora, Canopy Growth.
Canopy.
Then we started seeing the random ETFs that had all of them in it. Yeah, it had a spark. I just the idea of it, right? It became the competition. As soon as this thing is legalized, this is the industry that's gonna blow. But we're still waiting. Maybe we're just too early.
So when you do a SWOT analysis, when you put so the T is for threats. If cartel is on your threat list, not a business I want to be in. Now they got the agave business, tortilla business, and avocados and marijuana. If the cartel is on your competition list, that is not good. Sorry.
Man, we could be early. Just like in 2013, 14, Tesla, the world just wasn't ready. And maybe that's what's happening.
Maybe.
Yeah. Gotta have optimism out here.
They say me and Rashad need some of that. So yes, Rashad, let's go out for joy. Yes,
he said it's over. He said it's over.
Yeah, it's over. Finito.
John, that's a bad.
Smoking on that Canopy growth pack.
Smoking.
That's a bad John. All right, dead or alive segment.
Oh, okay.
Ian, I saw this, man. I saw you put up the post. You said what do they want to hear. A couple people said they need to hear some data dump. They like the title data dump better.
Data dump it. Okay.
Yeah, data dump really it's synonymous now, kind of with the blackout theme, and it's like no pun intended. Not saying that you're dating and dumping, or any of you are, but they just like that a little bit better. So we'll do data. We'll compare these to your relationship life. All right, so let's start with Coca-Cola. One of these stalwarts in the game. The ticker is KO for those who are not in the know. Interesting stock.
Yep.
Been here for years. We've talked about some of these other companies. I know Pepsi, and we talked about Monster in this sector. What's your thoughts on Coca-Cola?
Slow and steady, super volatile. We'll take this on a date. No real big issues. One of Buffett's biggest positions still. Don't like the products personally. They're not the healthiest, but as far as like the investment, if you want a safe stock that operates kind of like a bond or mutual fund, yes, Coca-Cola is definitely date worthy.
Definitely a date worthy. We got a date on that. Let's talk about KLA Corporation. If you look at their chart, the ticker is KLAC. I mean, an amazing looking chart over the 5-year. The 2-year looks pretty good as well. What's your thoughts on this? It's on a run. It's
amazing.
Fun. Yeah.
If KLA asks me, do we go together? I'm gonna say real bad for KLA. Yes, big date. I'm gonna move this one fast. You know what I mean? So, price super pricey. It's at $7.79. But the run has been incredible. Back in 2018, it was at $124. Return has been incredible. It's one of those sleeper companies like AutoZone that a lot of people don't talk about, but they're getting great gains. This is definitely a date, multiple dates, maybe even vacation vibes. So
it's a multiple date play.
Yeah.
Let's go to retail, and we'll talk about some big retail that are reporting this week. Let's talk about Ralph Lauren. Shout out to all our low heads out there. We've seen some pullbacks in the retail space. I know VLC company they bought Supreme. I know we covered that.
Yeah.
Now they're trying to figure out where to sell it. It just hasn't moved at the same pace that they thought. It was $1 billion transaction, which is pretty incredible for all the streetwear people out there. But one of the stalwarts in the space, Ralph Lauren, ticker is RL. What's your thoughts?
I like this company in theory, but I definitely cannot date this one. It's too volatile for me. I like consistent gains. I can't have my personal and my portfolio be rocky. So this one a little bit too rocky for me. I'm good. Like if you get it on a dip, if you get it anywhere in that like 89 to 70 range, great. Anything above that is too expensive. I'm good.
All right, let's go to one that's been on the tier. I'm interested to see what you say here. We were talking about Tesla from a standpoint of being an EV company, but it's also a tech company.
Yep.
Obviously, solar panels are in the play, charging stations are in the play, battery manufacturing is in the play. Let's talk about the company First Solar, ticker FSLR. In January, let's talk about these numbers. In January of this year, it was trading at $139. $139. It is currently trading at $276.74. What are your thoughts on First Solar?
They went to DR and got that financial portfolio BBL. It's been on a great run. The thing that I don't like about this company, though, this happened before in 2006. So you really have to buy this company when it's at a low, at the 80 range. Minimum is 152. Like Rashad, you just talked about not buying at a high. This is a company, like, imagine if you bought it in 2008, it was at 285. It would have taken you from 2007 to this year to get back to break even. The price that you pay matters a hell of a lot. Attractive, but no, I can't take this one on a date.
We're not touching it.
No.
All right, let's go to Tapestry. Ticker is TPR. I think I know what you're going to say, but let's just look at the chart. Ticker again is TPR. What's your thoughts on Tapestry Inc.?
I would tell Tapestry Inc. It's not you, it's me. I don't think I'm ready for this at this time. But if it got down to like $10 or $11, I would maybe want to swing trade it. But no, I don't like this business or this company at all.
Can I throw a wild card out there?
Yes, you can.
The company come up. I've seen it, and when we talk about retail, and we spoke about some of the future of not fast foods but food companies. We brought up Wingstop. We talked about McDonald's, Yum Brands. What's your thoughts on Toast? Ticker is TOST. Interesting. I was watching CNBC the other day. Mm-hmm. They were talking about it. I read it in the Wall Street Journal. Some of my other sources were talking about it. Mike, what is the hype around Toast? If you're not familiar with it, it is I guess we can say it's a company that's in that same sector.
Yeah.
But I don't know. The buzz around it is starting to peak. I look at the charts. I'm trying to figure out.
I don't get the hype. I really get like now Kava I get because every time I've been in Kava, it's been packed. I don't like stocks that are IPO, but Toast had a sharp decline. I know some people are starting to give it a neutral rating from a sell. Mm-hmm. I'll keep my eye on it and then see if the company does better over time. But I wouldn't take this one on a date.
We're not dating this one.
No, I'm a follow though. You know, I'm gonna hit notification and see what's going on if the company improves. But right now, no date.
Close friends? Close friends play?
Oh, yeah, close friends. Real quick, a little update, vacation vibes. but Kava, if I have to pick out of that space, Kava, and I don't think Wingstop is talked about enough.
Yes,
two businesses that are dominating Toast by a mile.
Definitely have Wingstop in the top 5. Let's do our last one here. Let's go ticker CNC. Centene Corp. What's your thoughts here?
Yes, definitely date. I like this one. If I can get it at $47, I would be elated. All-time high is 74. Gotta wait for it to pull back. I would not buy it right now, but this is definitely like a quiet date.
Quiet date.
Yeah. Backroom privacy, please.
So we got a few that we're dating. We got a close friends. This isn't a bad segment.
Not bad.
Not bad.
Yeah.
All right. Before we move, can we just talk really quickly about earnings this week? Because
yes,
some big ones. So it's big retail. You can say yay and nay on any of these companies that are going to be reporting what they should be looking for. So we'll start with Costco's reporting this week. Best Buy's reporting. Foot Locker, which we talked about plenty of times. And of course, every quarter we watch what Nike does to see how Foot Locker will perform. Ulta Beauty is another one we spoke about. They'll be reporting. And Dollar General will be reporting this week, as well as, and this is outside of the retail space, but Zscaler. So cybersecurity, okay. If we're talking about AI, security is going to be on the back end of all these companies that we talked about, especially from a data standpoint, which is what we talked about in terms of Nvidia, as why it's having its blowout quarters. Zscaler will be reporting this week, but next week, June 4th, I'll be interested, and I'm going to circle the date. CrowdStrike will be reporting, which I think is the leader in that space. And so they'll be reporting next week. And so those two in the cybersecurity, they've taken a hit over the past 2 or 3 quarters.
Yeah, they've been getting
but I think Crowd, it's made a nice comeback, and I think this is a key point, an indicator here where there might be some more substantial growth. So pay attention. June 4th, CrowdStrike.
Yeah, it's my dad's birthday too, by the way.
No, happy birthday to Dad.
Yeah, happy birthday. Also ELF, amazing.
Wow.
ELF and Ulta together.
Yes.
Two of my babies, fellas. If you go in Sephora or Ulta, you know what I mean?
Yes. ELF is a good one. That's a good one.
ELF a good one.
So let's talk about Trump. He was at the Libertarian National Convention over the weekend and got some boos. It was a pretty hostile crowd.
Yeah.
But he made in his speech, he talked about cryptocurrency, and he vowed to ensure the future of crypto and Bitcoin to be made in the United States. He also talked about making sure that the Federal Reserve doesn't get involved in crypto and people can keep the right to self-custody. We'll show a video, actually. Mike, show the video, please.
I will ensure that the future of crypto and the future of Bitcoin will be made in the USA, not driven overseas. I will support the right to self-custody. To the nation's 50 million crypto holders, I say this with your vote. I will keep Elizabeth Warren and her goons away from your Bitcoin. And I will never allow the creation of a central bank digital currency.
So that's a video of his speech, just a clip when he's talking about, having self-custody. He's talking about making Bitcoin in America. He's talking about, being pro cryptocurrency. Yeah. And obviously he's kind of preaching to that audience because libertarians, they believe in no government, low government. So that's right up their alley. So he's kind of like playing to that audience, obviously. But what's your thoughts on that?
I don't know if he believes what he's saying, but I think from a campaigning standpoint, to be the first president that is pro crypto was a brilliant move. If he actually is able to deliver on some of those things, game, set, match. Might as well start packing up the White House now. These are just my thoughts and my views on it. They don't happen. But if he believes that and he's pro custody, the Bitcoin meme audience is going to be his. Now, he was very anti-Bitcoin 4 or 5 years ago. And then the NFT project came out. Now he needs to get back in office. So I'm worried that he's using the crypto market to get votes and he won't deliver. But if he does, it would be very interesting. He also needs to be very careful, though, because when you start dealing with the monetary issues and Federal Reserve, and that's a whole nother can of worms that he has to be very careful about. But I don't know if he believes what he's saying. But do you guys think he was sincere in the clipping in the video, or do you think he was saying it just to get votes because he's desperate to win?
I mean, I think all politicians should say anything, but as long as they can get elected, I don't think that he fully understands what he's saying, even like to make sure that all Bitcoin gets made in America. That's not even a promise that you can keep. But I mean, whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's something for him to try to embrace the crypto community and crypto. It's obviously goes against Elizabeth Warren and people that want to regulate heavy regulation. So, it's a very nuanced topic, and I don't think he has a full education on what he's actually talking about. Yeah, but makes good sound bites for people. I think at this point in time, if you're gonna vote for Trump, you're gonna vote for Trump. If you're gonna vote for Biden, you're gonna vote for Biden. If you're not gonna vote, you're not gonna vote. I don't think what they say at this point in time is really going to change them. I don't think there's pretty much too many undecided people at this point in time. So whatever he says, he was in the Bronx, he brought out Chef G. It's just at this point in time, it's just like, theatrics. It's already set, I think. I don't think too much is really going to change from now till November.
I think there are still some undecideds. I think it's the younger demographic, which is why you talk about topics that relate to them. I think cryptocurrency is definitely one of those where there's a certain population who have absolutely no idea. I think he's in that population. People have no idea how it works or fundamentally how it works. I'm just starting, when you said it back, I just started laughing, like having it all made here. I'm like, yeah, really no clue. And so, yeah, it speaks to it. It speaks to that audience. And it may be perhaps that might be the one thing that they hear and say, you know what?
Maybe.
Yeah, this guy's for me because he's looking towards the future of not even currency, but of a stored value.
My thing is this, though, from a political standpoint. Joe Biden has been a politician for 50 years, almost.
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump was president for 4 years.
Yep.
And he's effectively ran for president for the last 4 years, right?
Yeah.
And he's one of the most famous people in world history. So at what point do you need what more information? How could you be undecided at this point in time, right? Like, what more information
do you need? I agree.
What more information needs to be provided to an audience for them to make an educated decision on who they want to vote for?
You always have people who are new to the political process. So that's one population. You have a population who weren't able to vote in the last election because they weren't even age appropriate to do it. So that's another population, which again speaks to a younger demographic who what are they saying that's going to appeal to me, right? Like when we talked about the CHIPS Act, yeah, that sounds really great, but how does that appeal to me? Well, cryptocurrency, that does appeal to me. And so you have those segments and pockets of people who are independent, who, hey, if I'm going to vote either way, I might not like the independent candidate. So there's populations of people who are yet to be undecided, hopefully, and that's what people are looking for. That's why they're going to these states to figure out, yeah, we know we have that demographic of people, we have this demographic of people. Who's like on the fence that we can kind of sway?
Yeah, I just don't see it, because I feel like even if you didn't vote, you're young. Like, my son knows who Donald Trump is. He's 13 years old. He knows who Biden is. He knows. I just feel like in this day and age of social media, we're in a constant. Like, previously, there was only like,
you could see it. Yep.
You take 3 years off and you start running like this. These elections run 24 hours a day, every single day.
Yeah, there's no off season.
There's no off season. They don't stop running, right? So it's just like, yeah, I get some people might not vote last time. Some people might be independent. Some people might be young, but I don't know. I just feel like we've never seen anything like this on social media, where every single day Biden and Trump and everything, all the information, he's federal. He got 90 federal indictment. Like, everything has come out, right? So it's like, I'm just curious to know, like, what would be the one tipping point to be like, okay, I'm going to switch my vote from A to B, or like this is going to be like, after all of this, like, this is going to be the one thing.
That's what they're banking on, right? That's why they spend money and marketed dollars, because it might not feel anything to us, but even for us, like, there's a population of people who are voting who may not be on social media the same way we are. And that's why the marketed dollars goes into some of those states. And so you'll see heavy campaigns in Pennsylvania. You'll see it in Georgia. You'll see it in Nevada. You see it in Ohio. You see it in Michigan, where it's like those places where we know are going to, those 9 states that are really going to decide the election. That's where you got to find those people that I'm speaking about.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily, and this is just my opinion, I don't think it's necessarily trying to find a voter to switch his allegiance or to change somebody's mind. I think it might, a lot of people are not going to vote. Voter suppression on their own, right? They're just not motivated. Yeah. And it's just like, if you can really, most of these ads are negative ads. Mm-hmm. If you watch the political world, most of the ads are negative.
They look like World Star ads or something.
Very few are positive ads, right? So the number one thing is try to suppress. You want to denigrate your opponent so bad that nobody even wants to vote for him, as opposed to even raising your own stature enough for people that want to vote for you, right? I think that that's the number one thing, because like I said, if you look at most political ads, they're negative ads. They're not positive ads. They're not telling you what they're going to run on. They're telling you what the other person is terrible at, right? So it's like they're banking on, how can I suppress votes for this person as much as possible, right? And then after that, I really feel like it is all issues that are like going to be here no matter what. It's like abortion, right? These are issues that's going to be here 50 years ago, 50 years from now. Like, these is just, and it's like, okay, how do I stand on this one particular issue? Not necessarily like I'm going to change somebody's mind, but I want to drill down that if you're a Christian, right-wing Christian, evangelical, like, you only really have an opportunity to vote for me. If not, you're voting for the devil. right? And it's like that's more the political grandstandering and games that's being played, because even a debate, they might not even have a debate this year, right? And that's historic. That's historic because they always have presidential debates. But I understand why they wouldn't have a debate.
They announced it that they're going to have.
They said that he would accept it, but they still haven't negotiated the terms.
I think they got the date.
So it's like at this point they might as well just roll the dice. Biden go up there and just say, "Yo, if you want Trump to win, everything is going to fall apart." That should be
that's good enough.
And then Trump should just say, if you hate America, vote for Biden. And then let's just see what happens. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be tremendously hard for Joe Biden to win. Right? But I think we all agree upon that, right? Ian?
Absolutely.
What's the odds?
I don't see how he can win.
What's the odds?
Say it again.
What's the odds that you're giving him for winning?
It's 30%.
You think Biden?
I'll go a little higher.
He's going to lose for the same reason Trump lost the last time. Like, the people don't feel financially secure. Like, presidential races are always about safety and money. They can move the definition of recession, and I'm telling you, people do not feel as secure as they did, especially after getting a taste of the PPP money and all that. I get what he's doing with the scholarships and student loans and all forgiveness and all that. But if people feel things are tighter in their home because of inflation, man, that falls on your watch.
What can be done? And you think Biden's going to win, right?
I think it's a toss-up.
No, I'm saying if you had to put $1 million on it right now today.
If I put $1 million, I would put on it.
I can put it on Biden win.
You who?
I think Biden wins.
How do you think Biden wins? He's losing every single swing state.
Yeah, because I've seen this before in 2016. Where we thought the same exact thing. Literally the same exact scenario. It was like, there's no way. This guy's not even an elected official. Here we have our Secretary of State.
Stranger things have happened. Whoever the new Olivia Pope is, if they get to calling her.
Presidential pedigree. Yeah. She was the first lady. And look how it turned out. Like, it wasn't even close, though. So he's the incumbent. I think there's still more. I think we'll be surprised.
People hated Hillary Clinton, though.
Absolutely. I don't want to say
they hate Hillary Clinton.
No, they hated Hillary Clinton. That's a fact.
People hate, I don't want no smoke.
People hate it.
People hate Donald Trump, and people hate Joe Biden.
They also love Donald Trump. See, this is the thing with Donald Trump.
But here's the thing: if you say people love him, then you can't say that people don't love Joe Biden.
Well, I can say
he has the most votes in the history of the American election.
All right. So here's the thing.
People love him.
No, they don't love him.
Was that a little bit like?
Let me explain. That's a vote against Trump. Joe Biden doesn't have any electric base of people that are enthusiastic about supporting him.
Well, that's not true.
Let me finish saying. So they might be enthusiastic about defeating Donald Trump. Donald Trump has an enthusiastic base of supporters that rally and support him. This is why he can go to different places and do these events, and people will stop everything. They wear the merch. They buy the merch. I haven't seen one person wear Joe Biden merch. I've never seen that. So what I'm saying is that if people are voting for Joe Biden, his core base is not enthusiastic. The black people are not enthusiastic for Joe Biden. We know that. He just did the presidential thing at Morehouse, and they turned their backs to him. Latinos is not enthusiastic about him. That's another core base for him. They're not enthusiastic. They might support him because they just hate Donald Trump so much, but nobody is. Obama had people that was enthusiastic about him,
and he had people who hated him too.
I understand that, but he rallied his support base to have enthusiastic votes. Joe Biden, and they're struggling because they don't have enthusiasm. They have people that hate Trump, but nobody is enthusiastic, overly love with Biden-Harris ticket.
But here's the reality, right? Even if you loved him or you liked him, did he accumulate the most votes in the history of an American election?
Yeah.
That still is on the table, right? So my thing is
he's not going to have as many votes this year.
We don't know. We don't know.
We can only go by data that is being provided.
But that's what I'm saying. The data that's been provided to us shows us that
they don't love Joe Biden. People do not love Joe Biden. He has one of the lowest approval ratings in American history.
According to you.
Ian, do you think people love Joe Biden?
Have the lowest. That's not true.
He has one of the lowest approving ratings.
I thought you said he has the lowest.
I was going to say it's one of the lowest.
Oh, so does the guy that he's running against has the lowest?
George Bush had the lowest. Ian, do you think that people love Joe Biden?
It doesn't matter what we think.
I'm
That's what I'm
asking
saying.
his opinion.
He said no.
He has an opinion.
No, I said he shook his head.
I'm just asking his
No,
opinion.
and I'm saying it doesn't matter what we
But
think.
I'm just curious to know his opinion.
Also, for the Patriots too,
He said no.
does the insurrection part that Trump did matter?
Say it again.
The insurrection that
Does
he
it
led.
matter? I'm sure it will to people who vote.
To some.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't matter. That's why I'm saying
Why doesn't it matter?
Because he has 91 federal indictments. Obviously, nobody cares.
Why are you yelling?
This dude caught rape. He caught rape charges. He caught
yelling?
91 federal indictments. He started a damn near revolt. It's none. That's why he said I can go in front of Times Square and shoot somebody and it won't matter. He said this and he wasn't wrong in saying that. Nothing that he does is going to matter because the people that hate him is already going to hate him. That's not going to change. It's not going to seal the deal.
Okay, the real question is who will be better for the country?
His supporters will never stop supporting him no matter what he does. He literally can start World War III. His supporters will say it was somebody else's fault.
So all right, that's true, right? But does he have enough support to win an election?
I think he does.
Well, that's what we'll have to see, right? You could say all those things, but the reality is when he ran a campaign last year, he did not win.
Yeah.
And this is a different year.
So we have to see.
I think if Trump wins, it'll be because Biden lost and mismanaged more than the outpouring. Because that, like for Patriots, people, I know some people that loved him, that attack that they did, that changed a lot of shit. That's like me going to Morehouse and burning down some buildings and burning down HHS stuff.
Let's not put that energy out there.
You can't. No, I don't want it to happen. But I'm saying like that is treason.
But Ian, how did it change anything when he won the Republican nominee by a landslide? Nobody even challenged. It wasn't even close for any. Nikki Haley never even stood a chance, right? He's winning. He's literally Wall Street Journal, NBC, ABC.
Everybody has him winning.
Every single state that he needs to win, he's winning damn near by double digits in most of these states, right? Yeah. He has momentum on his side, and he's going to raise less money than the Democrats. So, but that's what I'm saying. Like, how has it negatively affected him when he's on a pathway to become president?
I'm just asking the question: will it show up at the voting booths in November?
Yeah, you got a 5-month runway. You could be, as I said, you could have momentum right now. The only momentum is going to matter is on November 4th, November 5th. I got what day?
I don't see. Can we have an honest conversation or edit out whatever we need?
Yeah, I think November 4th.
I don't know what Biden can do to get
November 5th. I'm sorry.
The momentum, and then also too, you can't go back to the black audience and say that you got to come out because you haven't allowed her to have the freedom to do what she needs to do.
Yeah. Yeah,
like if we're gonna be let's just be real honest. Yeah. Man, they fucking used her and then put handcuffs on her. I don't see how he gets hot enough to win in November. And the crazy part, whether Biden has the debate or not, Trump's gonna have his own debate. And don't let that boy go on Rogan.
Yeah, I think they do have the debate. I don't know if it's a great idea for him to have the debate.
It'd be a shut. Like what Obama said back in the day.
Yeah, because if you do a no-hold bar where you're not having the moderators in traditional national debate form, I don't know if that caters to his strong suit, but I think he does it. But like you said, there's a 5-month runway from now until November 5th. The only thing that's going to matter is November 5th when people go and vote. We'll see what the turnout is.
Hey, like, you know how like Adam at Instagram hit that button and then we get more engagement? If the Democrats get hitting that button, we may, because even the most votes in history, do we really believe he got more votes than Obama?
And even that number is that every year is going to be more votes in history because it's more people. It's more.
Man, Obama had everybody out, whether you liked him or not.
Yeah, you're just playing with.
I never saw the voting polls that packed my life.
Trump got the second most votes in American history.
Yeah, more people turn out to vote.
So I just feel like at the end of the day, it's going to be an uphill battle for Joe Biden to win. But if he's able to pull it off, it'll be tremendous political victory for the Democrats because I don't ever think that they really even expected him to win at this point. They focusing on the Senate. They focusing on Congress. So they actually polling pretty well. They polling pretty well in the Senate. They polling pretty well in Congress. You know, local elections, things like that. Like, you know, and nothing is impossible.
Can we take a poll of who everyone think will win? But if I had to bet, I would bet Biden will not win.
He's not going to. All right, what's today? 27.
And let's click this up because I don't have an issue coming on and saying I was wrong.
No, I mean, the reality is if he wins or he doesn't win, or if Trump is the president or Biden is the president, we still going to have to figure out how to invest and how to create for ourselves.
Big facts. And we'll be here to
I mean, that's the most important thing. It's good to debate and have a conversation around, but I mean, what are you doing for yourself first? So, I mean, hear the candidates, make your choice. Hopefully,
can we get some better candidates in the next election?
Well, that's a whole nother conversation.
Just please, Rock. I know you setting your run up, but can we get somebody else, please? Jeez,
Rock's he's still doing movies, man. He's not worried about that right now.
Terramana, yeah.
Well, before we leave, what are your thoughts on delaying retirement age from 62 to 65, 67, or even 70 to try to maximize your monthly payment you likely receive from Social Security?
I know we talked about this last week and why are people leaving the country, but you want to, like, if the average life expectancy is 71, you want me to work up in 4 years before I pass? Not like going back to Social Security running out, certain entitlements running out, pension funds are drying up. I think this it's a great question, but also we have to focus on quality of life as well. Retirement age cannot be moved up. And I know a lot of people want to move this up, but I think it's incredibly unfair. And most people are not getting a livable wage as inflation is going up. We have to stop this because they really want people to work until they're 72, which is
ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
Like, what are we talking about? Like, people have poured their lives into the country, into the workforce, into the economic system, to then find out Social Security isn't there for people to say, oh, it's a conspiracy. No, it's not. That money's gone. Money's fucking good. Y'all been fucked that money off in Monaco. Stop it, man. Like, no, you want our parents and grandparents to work to 70? No. Y'all get some of them retirement picks and shit y'all be picking out in some of the meetings. No, it's unfair. Quality of life here isn't as good. Food quality isn't as good. Peace of mind here isn't good. We got two candidates that are marginal at best. Rent too damn high. What a rent too damn high party guy. Bring him back.
What happened to him?
We need reform in everything. So if you need criminal justice reform,
rent's still too damn high. You need to come.
It's went up multiple since then.
Well, now we need.
But for best practices, it is always better to defer your payments as long as possible because you get more money. So if you can wait to 70 to take your Social Security, that's advised as opposed to taking it when you're 62.
That's what Sam Bankman-Fried told everybody too.
Yeah. But isn't there expiration date as to when they said Social Security be expired by? Is it like 2031 or something like that?
2036 something.
Yeah, but they'll probably put some more money into it. But
principle.
It's like if you have a parent that you're advising your parent or somebody that's currently in a situation right now, once you start to take it, you can't change it. So if you don't necessarily need it, it is advised to delay it because when you delay it, you'll have more money.
Mm-hmm.
If you need it, then what can you do? You got to take whatever.
Yeah, I think it was like 67 because I actually did it for my parents. It was like 67% at one age, and it's 72%, then it's like 77. Then obviously, as you get to the actual age for my parents, I think it was 67. The closer you get to 67, then it's like 100%.
So defer Social Security the payments as long as you can, if you can, and hopefully you can get some.
Yeah, hopefully the money will still be there.
Yeah.
But you should never rely on Social Security anyway.
Yes. Will Social Security be there at our retirement ages?
I don't know, but Social Security was never intended to be a sole source of income.
That's true
for anybody, right? That's something to keep in mind. So you should never look at Social Security as like this is my retirement plan.
Yes.
If it's there, then that's great. You shouldn't even look at it like you shouldn't even be calculating it in your
not a primary source.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Even though you paid into it, look at it as a blessing if it's still there in 2041.
For sure. Look at it like
that's a long time.
Like you're paying taxes. If you can get a refund, great. If not, hey, what can you do?
Stack this cheese up.
All right.
Big facts.
One day I'm gonna get a street life up.
Blackout Wednesday.
Yes.
We will be
Any topics you want to tell the people we'll be talking about? Or you want to save it?
It's a few.
Shout out to your mom for bringing up amazing. And to all the ladies, anyone who may tone right to anyone who had an issue with my chivalry take, the question was posed by Rashad's mom, who is an amazing woman. I was just giving my commentary on if some women don't like chivalry, especially if I was chivalrous with you. Don't
It might be.
I'll do the heartbreaking. Ain't nobody hurt me.
Did you say it was dead?
Yeah, for a lot of people, yeah.
You said it was dead too.
No, I didn't say it was there.
Oh,
It's a different.
because I don't think I heard the answer. Like, if you agree that it was dead, I think I personally think it still exists. It's just certain character of people still were raised in that way where
that era and way. Yeah,
yeah. I don't see it as much though, but it's important as men that we teach our young men. Like we just had it. Like my niece went to the prom, and there was this chivalry that comes along with that, right? Like there's certain expectation that the young man should come and put the flowers on, bring flowers
knock on the door,
the whole thing. Yeah, but I mean, some of these things, if you don't know, you just don't know. And you're just like, all right, I'll meet you. Meet me at the meetup spot. Like we're all meeting here. It's little things, man. We that's why we're here.
Shout out to all my babies I've ever been chivalrous to. Flip that part up.
Chivalrous.
Yes.
There you have it. Next week we'll be back. Blackout. EYL tomorrow. EYL University. We got Shonda Martin Thursday. I got a class actually tomorrow.
Okay.
So we got a full schedule on EYL University. So tap in. And yeah, man, it's been real.
Yeah, everybody be safe. Market's back open tomorrow. So make sure that you're checking your portfolio. Make sure everything's good. Invest responsibly and take care of each other. Reach out to somebody that you haven't reached out to in a while. Love is love, man. Spread joy.
Sure, I'm so proud of you. Like, no matter what you say, I'm learning. I keep trying, and I like.
Can we give Ian a fire in the chat? He did the whole episode in a bucket and sunglasses. We didn't even mention it, but that's been earned. Legion's been earned.
Yeah, if y'all ain't listened about it, I told y'all on video 2 years ago, what's the next pick? No, you'll be up 3,000% listening. I gotta be in the suit for you to listen to be ready. I'm cool. Nah. Yeah, and also y'all could telling me to stop talking a certain way on Blackout. No. What's the purpose of being free if you can't speak freely? I'm cool.
No, I'm not going to.
And I went easy on the Diddler conversation, like for what I had planned.
Come on, man.
Great teamwork. I also tried boxing when I got you screen. I'm chill. Shout out to Katie. Episode went crazy though.
Shout out to KB. KB, what's good, my brother?
Oh, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh man, Leo's probably in his 50s.
Have a conversation one day, not today, but yeah. Now I'm gonna get on the other side of this coin. Cool. We didn't talk enough about Puff.
Now he playing the chingy line. He's trying
when he do it.
No,
I don't say nothing about him because he did that one Titanic movie and did rapping it. Oh, okay.
He's treading the chingy line. It's illegal. Rest in peace to Bill Walton. He passed away this afternoon.
What?
Yeah, rest in peace to Bill Walton.
Wow.
NBA legend.
I did not know that. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Broadcasting legend too.
Broadcasting legend as well.
Yeah.
UCLA legend. Yep. Rest in peace.
I would be remiss, I'm gonna use your term, if I didn't ask for like one big lesson you learned from the interview with Alex and Weezy. From each of you.
Just about, how well, their model is the cheap model, actually. So they don't want to overprice. They want to cater to everybody.
Yeah, we had a big argument about that.
You don't say.
So that's interesting that, it's interesting because, I always say you make money in Target or you make money in Saks Fifth. You don't make money in between. Yep. So you either Walmart base bottom level, very cheap, affordable, or very high end. You get crushed in the middle.
Yeah.
So their thing is that they want to make it affordable for everybody, and it was an interesting business model, and they kind of explained it, and they talked about the conversation that they had with you.
Weezy, when we gonna redo our skit?
So yeah, it's interesting. That's an interesting, dilemma for entrepreneurs. As far as how to price their services, whether they go very affordable or ultra expensive, and kind of only deal with select few. There's pros and cons, I guess, with both. But
I think understanding each other's strengths, I think it's huge. When they were talking about from a technical standpoint, like Weezy admitted, he's like, I know nothing. I don't know a camera. Like, I just don't know.
Yeah.
I'll leave that up to Alex. Alex is like, look, she's a marketing genius. And I think people don't understand, like, these two young ladies, when I'm talking about Weezy and Mandy, they're really brilliant women.
Absolutely.
Yes, what they talk about is sex, and obviously it teeters the line of like, well, this is wild. But like, outside of what they talk about, they're two brilliant women. And so yeah, from a marketing standpoint, he's like, look, I just rely on her. I just know what I know. She knows what she knows. We work good together. Yeah. And obviously WTF is created from that. So I think, yeah, understanding and maximizing each other's strengths.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's been real.
Love y'all. That's a good blackout topic too. How to handle a heated conversation.
Diplomacy.
I learned.
All right, y'all. Love is love. Peace.